What's up, Bio Penguins? Today we're going to do 2014 number 4 on food webs. The table below shows how much each organism in an aquatic ecosystem relies on various food sources. The rows represent the organisms in the ecosystem, the columns represent the food sources. The percentages indicate the proportional dietary composition of each organism. High percentages indicate strong dependence of an organism on a food source. So as you see here, the algae, of course, consumes nothing. The stoneflies consume the midges and the candice flies. The midges consume all of the algae, or 100% algae. The hellgranids consume stoneflies, midges, and candice flies, and the candice flies consume algae and midges. So we look here at part A. It says, based on the food sources indicated in the data table, construct a food web in the template below. Write the organism names on the appropriate lines and draw arrows necessary to indicate the energy flow between organisms in the ecosystem. So we look here, we can see, okay, well, what is consume, like what do the midges all consume? Well, the midges consume 100% algae, which means that the algae is going to be our primary producer and it's the bottom of our food web. We next want to see, okay, well, what is going to be consuming the midges? So the candice flies are consuming both the midges and the algae. So we are going to go ahead and write candice flies next, and we're going to draw an arrow from the algae to the candice flies. Next, we say, okay, well, the stoneflies consume midges and the candice flies. So we'll put the stoneflies next. They already have the arrow from the midges, so we'll just add the arrow for the candice flies. And all that's left is the hellgrammins, okay? So those ones are consuming stoneflies, they consume midges, and they consume the candice flies. So we go ahead and put the candice flies arrow and the stoneflies arrow on there. So you got 1 point for properly placing them, and you have another second point for having your arrows correct. So the student, of course, placed everything right. They've got their algae, the candice flies, the stoneflies, the hellgrammins, as well as their arrows. So they have 2 points so far. In an effort to control the number of midges in an area within the ecosystem, it was sprayed with a fungus, which significantly decreased the midge population. Based on data in the table, predict whether the spraying of the fungus will have the greatest short-term impact on the population of the stoneflies, candice flies, or hellgrammins. Justify your prediction. So we look here at the midges. We can say, okay, which organism is consumed or has most of its diet consumed of midges? And that would be the stoneflies. The stoneflies have 90% of their diet being midges versus the hellgrammins have 10% and the candice flies have 30%. So the stoneflies are going to be the one that is, of course, going to have the most impact. And it's because they have the higher dependence on the midges than the other two organisms, or because the midges have 90% while there's 30% for the candice fly and 10% for hellgrammins. Then here, of course, was the student's answer, which I guess was ahead of myself. The spraying of the fungus would have the greatest short-term impact on the stoneflies. This is because 90% of the stoneflies' diet use the midges as their food source. So the stoneflies are the more dependent on midges than the candice flies or the hellgrammins. Hope this was helpful. Remember, 85 hang with just Bye, y'all.